So last week we talked about the fact that the economy is improving. And employees no longer feel lucky just to have a paycheck. And they're now in a position to demand more than they have in many years. So what I want to do today is I want to take a deeper dive. I want to talk about how we can keep employees long term. And so the biggest single factor for keeping people is going to be compensation. And let's assume for a minute that you're paying an employee $60,000 and you plan on paying them $70,000. So there's a $10,000 raise coming. Now, there's a number of ways you could make this work. You could simply give them that $10,000 immediately. You get a tremendous amount of goodwill for a short period of time, and then life goes on and they become complacent with it because that's just human nature. That's how things work. But rather than paying it all at one time, why not do it in, let's say, $2,000 increments? So every quarter, maybe give them a $2,000 raise until you get to that full $10,000. Or break it up, however you see fit. But if you do it over a longer period of time, you create more goodwill. You keep them interested over a longer period of time. Another way to go about it is to take the $10,000 and put it in a deferred compensation plan for that employee. Okay, so it's a forced savings, so there's a huge benefit for the employee. And you set up a vesting schedule, and let's say you do it for 3 years. So in order to get that $10,000, okay, they have to stay with you for 3 years. You could even allow the employee to direct the money. In other words, they could invest it in a number of different options you could set up for them, but they would have to stay with you. Now that does a couple of things. Number one, it gives them forced savings, which obviously is a positive as we suggested, but it also ties them to you. Because if another employer is coming along trying to hire one of your people, okay, now they have to make that person whole. So if they have, let's say, as much as $30,000 out there waiting to be collected, and that another employer is coming out and trying to hire this person away, they may have to write a check for that amount of money just to get them to come. Okay, and that ties the employee a little bit closer to you, makes them harder to be hired away. So that's one way to do things, and again, that seems like a way that a lot of people win. Okay, so compensation clearly is a big area that we could talk a lot about. But there's some other things that we don't have to get into compensation. So what about things like food, right? Human beings love to get fed. We all know that. I worked for a firm many years ago. They would buy us lunch every day. Okay, so it was a $10 lunch. It was nice. It was fine. It all worked. But if we took their lunch, we stayed in for lunch. And what that meant was instead of going out for an hour, there was another hour of work that you ended up doing. So the employer won. That's what they wanted. The employee won because they had the option to stay in or go out. But almost everybody stayed in, and it kept them in the office. And so the time for all of us was worth far more than the $10 lunch they were providing, but yet they got us to stay because they did something nice. At my daughter's school, there's a new principal, and he decided to pay for lunches for the teachers. That had never been done before. The teachers were so inspired by this move. They're so happy right now based on what this man did for them. He earned a tremendous amount of goodwill. And in the end, maybe it costs them $2,000 a year to do that. Maybe it's $2,500 a year. Okay, so if you're hearing that, you're saying that's a big number, $10 a day every day for employees. Maybe that's too much. What if you did it once a week? Okay, now you get tremendous benefit. Once a week, you have real appreciation for doing it. It costs you about $500 a year to do it that way. So I think that's an idea that you can take away and use. Other things you can do, things like holidays or birthday parties. Simply as an employer, buy the cake. So simple, so easy, but now you get camaraderie. Everybody comes together. You're the person providing the cake. You earn goodwill. Everyone's happy. Cakes are cheap. It works. It pulls an office together. It raises morale. So that's a very simple one. So work anniversaries are another one. If you have someone that's been with you 5, 10, 15, 20 years, on that anniversary of service date, make a big deal about it. Again, you can go to the cake idea again, but just do something to recognize the person. Even someone doing a good job. You get a new account, a project goes over really well. Whoever was the driver of that project, praise them publicly. It creates a positive environment in the workplace. So all these things work. They really do. And at the end of the day, what people want, they want to feel appreciated. So take interest in them, even in their families. Learn the names of their children. Share some of your stories from your family with them. Make yourself human to the people that you work with. But it's all about making people feel good. If you make them feel good about themselves, they'll be loyal to you. And so that's really what we're trying to get to. So I'll just ask you for one favor. If you know of someone that can benefit from some of the advice we talked about, pass it along. And in the meantime, have a great, great week.